Anytime you see a technique on the web, it's pretty easy to see how it's been implemented. And since I'm using the Yard Tunes or the Tune Yards as my inspiration for this, and I like this full-size stretchable background, I took a peek at the source code to look at exactly how they did it. When I scrolled down, I saw the first link to an image over here. And look at that. So here is the image that they're using for this this background effect over here. Now, obviously, what they've done here is they've put actually an image into their HTML, and the image is just for decorative purposes. So let's just say that technically this isn't a best practices implementation, right? Because this picture has nothing to do with the content, so it shouldn't be in the HTML. It should be in the CSS. But the flip side of that is that CSS, at least CSS2, doesn't have any ability to control the size of a background of an image. So that means that because CSS won't allow us to make this style of stretchable background, we need to look at other ways to do it. Now, there's different methods of implementing this. Probably if you do want to do the complete separation of HTML and CSS, you jump into the realm of JavaScript, jQuery kind of stuff. But let's, for the sake of this, for the sake of the site that we're going to work on now, we're gonna do it by putting it in the HTML. Again, well, we know that this is not the best practices way, but sometimes you do have to do things that aren't the best practice way of doing it. Now, you want to avoid it, and you want to realize that you're not doing it the way you technically shouldn't. But honestly, how else are you gonna, if you need to get this done and you don't know how to do, and you don't know JavaScript or jQuery, that's the choice you have. So let's move forward. So let's investigate how they did this. At least, not even how they did this. Let's look at the image that they're using. Now, when I looked at the image, I see that the image itself is 12 by 12, or rather 1200 by 1200 pixels, and it seems to work for me. I mean, I know, like, the bigger you get it, I'm sure if you went on a really big screen, it gets more and more pixelated. But even that, honestly, this doesn't have to be the best printable image ever. I think that it looks pretty good this way. I mean, at least it's kind of delivering the stylistic thing it's trying to do over here. So here's what I know. Their image is at about 1200 pixels by 1200 pixels, and actually I tried to, yeah, that's not going to work. Let me see how big the file size in this thing actually is. So if I look back at the code and I look at the link where the image is, this is telling me that the image is in images folder /bg.jpg. So why don't I copy this, and I'm going to go right to that link from the URL, because I couldn't do it from the source code. So I'll just do / in that, and there we go. It takes me to the image. Now I could drag it off my desktop, and just want to investigate about how large the image size is. So there you go. This image is about 233 kilobytes. It's pretty big for an image on the web, but since it's going to be the entire background, I don't know. I wonder if you could actually get it much smaller than that. So let me show you what I'm going to do with my image. My image was taken from when I went scuba diving in Maui recently. So we rented an underwater camera, and I got this. This is not one of the better pictures that I took underwater, but it's going to work well for the background I'm going for. Now, this is the original image. I didn't do anything except I actually changed the dimensions of it. I didn't change it exactly to the 1200 by 1200 that I found in the other site, but mine, I did have, this is, I didn't, no, actually, wait a minute, never mind. I didn't change it at all. I just, I left the dimensions to be the exact size that I took the picture in. And what you see, it is a JPEG, so it's not the, this may actually even be one that it's semi-optimized that I exported out of iPhoto. Because I think the original picture that I snapped with my camera, which actually, I come to think of it, was a TIFF, was like 4.2 megabytes, and this one is 1.7 megabytes. Well, regardless, this is way too big anyway, because you can't use something this big. So let's see how we could get it a little bit smaller. The first thing is I'm going to change the dimensions to make it a bit smaller than this 3600 pixels, because that's just adding unnecessary size. So let me do adjust size. Now, I'm just using Preview in Mac, which is a basic program. You can use whatever program you like. If I'm just going to resize photos, I'm certainly not going to open up Photoshop to do that, because Photoshop is a big, huge, mind you, awesome program, but if I'm just going to be changing the dimensions, I'm going to use the lightest weight program I have. So for my width, let's do the 12. That's going to make my height only 900. Figure what you're looking at here, the width of my entire laptop browser or laptop screen is, I think, like 1680. So I'm just kind of, yeah, 1680 by 1050. Maybe, I don't know. Let me do 1400. And oh, look already how much it's going to reduce. It says it's going to reduce the size by it's going to be 255 kilobytes. That is much better than what we have. And here is the actual size of it now. If you look close, I do shoot these videos in high def. You should be able to see that it's a little bit pixelated, right? I mean, this is going to be the actual size of the image. This is totally fine. This is a background image. So let me save this. And now let me verify the size, that it's actually that 238. Okay, you know what? I think I could get this guy even smaller, file size wise, without degrading the image quality. So I'm going to make a duplicate of this, and we could do a back-to-back comparison. And I go up, optimized. Okay, you get it. So here's the original version we'll keep, and now I'm going to try to pump this through Photoshop and see if I get this a little bit better. And I already have it the way I want it over here. And, you know, you could do any kind of color edits and that kind of stuff. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go File and Save for Web and Devices. And I guess this would be a good place to look at how the image is going to degrade with my Photoshop medium. This is more than I want it to. You see how this is clearly getting really pixelated. As far as the quality goes, let me crank this bad boy up to 85%, which is very high according to the preset. But the Save for Web and Devices in Photoshop actually strips out some interesting stuff as well that could be useful. Let's see what it looks like in the preview. Look, actually it did the opposite. It's making the file size a little bit bigger. That's not helping me out. Maybe I could dumb this down a little bit more then, from 85 to, do I dare 60? That's high. Alright, let's give it a preview now. Ooh, look at this. You know what? This is acceptable to me. So this is what it's looking like. And the file size went from like 238 to 141. You know what? It's a keeper as far as I'm concerned. I like that. I guess I could push it and go a little bit more, but forget all that. I'll replace the optimized one. And now let's actually do that back-to-back comparison. So first, let's just look at the file size. The dimensions are the same, so that's legit. What happened is that this file size is a lot smaller. Look at that, at least by 100 pixels or 90 pixels. It went from 238 to 147. And what's interesting that you could tell some of the stuff that Photoshop stripped out of this to save space. Look on the original under more info has all this information from my camera. You know, this is kind of the metadata that my camera embeds every time I take a picture of it. But look at this. It doesn't have it over here in the optimized from going Photoshop Save for Web. So what using that function actually does is strip out a lot of this stuff that isn't necessarily important to, you know, an online visitor doesn't need this stuff for your layout. So take it out, because honestly, any extra data that you have on your stuff is just garbage that's going to need to be downloaded by the user. Now, I'm talking to you from my home internet connection, which is pretty fast. But you know, if I was trying to look at this page through like an iPhone or a Droid, you know, 100 pixels. I don't know, 100 pixels here and 100 extra pixels there. It could add up and really slow me down and honestly just annoy me.